Attention passionate Montreal, Canadiens fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the Atlantic Division and it could shake up the entire conference. We're talking about a direct impact on Montreal Canadiens' path to another Stanley Cup run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Montreal Canadiens fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Montreal, CANADIENS fans. Let's get to the news now, folks. I hope you're sitting down because what I'm about to tell you is pretty significant. The Montreal Canadiens, as you all know, have been going through a bit of a roller coaster these past few seasons. After their rebuild phase, the focus has been on developing young talent, re-establishing their identity, and making strategic moves that could propel them back into serious playoff contention. But this news, well, it's about a potential shift in their roster that could change the entire landscape of the Atlantic Division. And I mean big things are brewing. So hang on, because we're about to dive deep into what's happening behind the scenes, what it could mean for the Canadiens, and how this might influence their chances of chasing that elusive Stanley Cup once again. Over the past few seasons, the Canadiens have been trying to find the right chemistry, especially in their forward lines and defensive pairs. They've invested heavily in their young core, including some promising players who are still trying to find their stride at the NHL level. But one of the key areas that's been a concern for the team, and that's been a focus for the management, is their depth at the tight end position, or more specifically, their ability to secure consistent scoring from that spot. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, tight end. Well, in hockey terms, that's akin to their second and third line centers and the depth players who can come in and provide that spark when needed. And folks, the Canadiens have been keeping an eye on their options, especially as the season progresses and the trade deadline approaches. The current roster includes some solid names, but as we all know, injuries and inconsistent performances can often throw a wrench into even the best plans. For example, earlier this season, the Canadiens were dealing with some injury issues, particularly in their forward core, making them more vulnerable against teams with deeper lines. That's why the management has been exploring ways to boost their depth, to ensure they're not left hanging if injuries strike again, or if the team needs a fresh spark. And this is where things get interesting, because the rumblings around the league suggest that the Canadiens are actively looking at potential trades, even if they haven't made any official moves yet. Now, in terms of potential targets, it's no secret that the Canadiens are eyeing players who can step in immediately and contribute, especially in a playoff push scenario. The team has been linked to a few names, but one that's been generating a lot of buzz lately is a young tight end. A young player who can fill that scoring role, who's currently dealing with some injury issues and might be available through a trade. Of course, I'm talking about a player who's relatively young, with a lot of upside, and who could be a perfect fit for Montreal's rebuilding timeline. The team is looking for someone who can not only help now but also be part of their long-term plan. So, what are the specifics? Well, the Canadiens are reportedly considering a move for a player who's just 24 years old. This player has shown flashes of brilliance in the past, but injuries have hampered his ability to fully establish himself. Still, with the right environment and a fresh start, he could be a game changer. Now, the team's management is cautious. They don't want to overpay, especially if the player's injury history could be a red flag. But if the price is right, this could be a low-risk, high-reward situation that propels Montreal's offense to the next level. And given their current standings and the competitive nature of the Atlantic Division, making a move like this could be the difference between a first-round exit and a deep playoff run. But here's the catch. This player's current team isn't exactly eager to part ways. Team, which is fighting for playoff positioning itself, is reportedly hesitant to trade their young talent unless the offer is compelling. They're concerned about losing a future star, especially since this player still has a lot of potential left to unlock. That said, the team is also aware of the value that a trade could bring and might be willing to listen if the Canadiens present an attractive deal. It's all about the negotiations, folks, and whether Montreal's management is willing to make that bold move. And speaking of potential trades, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about another player who's been linked to the Canadiens in various rumors. Although, again, nothing's finalized yet. This is a player who's been in the league for a few years now, and he's known for his versatility and scoring ability, even if his role has been somewhat diminished recently. The rumors suggest that his current team might be open to offers, especially if they're looking to clear cap space or rebuild for the future. For Montreal, acquiring a player like that could bring a much-needed boost to their second and third lines, giving them more flexibility and scoring depth. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, what about the team's cap situation? That's a great point. Montreal has been managing their cap carefully, trying to stay flexible for potential moves at the deadline. They've been cautious about overextending financially because they know that long-term sustainability is key. But if a trade can be made without sacrificing too much cap space or draft capital, I'm sure the Canadiens are very interested. They've shown that they're willing to be aggressive if the right opportunity presents itself, especially if it can help them solidify their position as contenders. Of course, we can't ignore the fact that the trade market is always fluid. The other teams involved are also trying to gauge the market value of their assets, and that's where things get tricky. Sometimes, the asking price can be inflated, especially if the team believes they have leverage. But Montreal's management has been known to be shrewd negotiators, and they're not going to make a move just for the sake of it. They want to add quality, not just quantity. They're looking for players who can seamlessly fit into their system and help them push through the playoffs. Now, let's talk about the bigger picture. The Montreal Canadiens, under head coach Martin St. Louis, have shown resilience and a clear desire to compete. They've been developing their young core, including players like Cole Caulfield, who's been lighting up the scoreboard when healthy, and Nick Suzuki, who continues to be a steady presence at center. These players are the foundation for their future, but to truly contend, they need more veteran leadership and scoring depth, something they're actively seeking through these potential trades. And as always, the fan base is eager to see what the team will do. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of speculation, but also a cautious optimism. The Canadiens are in a position where they can't afford to stand still. They've got to be aggressive if they want to make a real push into the playoffs and maybe even challenge for the Stanley Cup. But they also need to be smart, balancing short-term gains with long-term stability. That's the challenge for the front office right now, finding that sweet spot where they can add the right pieces without compromising their future. Now, I want to circle back to what this all means for the fans. The Canadiens are at an interesting crossroads. They've built a foundation of young talent and are looking to complement that with strategic additions. The trade deadline is just around the corner, and everything indicates that Montreal will be active. Whether it's acquiring that young, injury-prone star or making a savvy trade for a versatile player, the goal remains the same: to bring the Stanley Cup back to Montreal. The team's fans, myself included, are eager to see what moves will be made, and we're all hoping that management's patience and strategic thinking will pay off. So, as we wait for official announcements, let's keep an eye on the rumors, the negotiations, and the potential outcomes. The Canadiens have a talented group, but they know they need a little extra push if they want to be serious contenders. And I believe that, with the right moves, they can turn this season into one for the history books. Whether it's a young player coming in to fill a gap or a veteran who can provide leadership, the Canadiens are looking to make a statement. And with the passion of their fans, the resilience of their players, and the sharpness of their management, I truly believe the best is yet to come. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Montreal Canadiens news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. And now, Montreal Canadiens fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on all this? Do you think the team should pull the trigger on a trade? Who do you want them to target? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Canadiens. We're all in this together, and your voice is an important part of the conversation. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Montreal Canadiens news. The team is in an exciting phase, and every move they make could shape the future of this franchise for years to come. Thanks for sticking with me, and as always, go Canadiens!